See, verse 5. Since his days are determined, the number of his months is set with you, and his limits have been set so that he cannot pass. In these verses, Job states how short-lived human life is. And we see here that its length of days and its length of months remains in the hands of God, that no one will live beyond the allotted time that God has assigned for that person. We are to give ourselves to medical care. We are to use wisdom and discretion. But the fact of the matter is that God, by His own sovereign will, has set the boundaries for our lives. He has set the day of our birth, and He has set the day of our death, and He has numbered every one of our days in between, and we will not live one day less nor one day more. And this truth is especially important to us today for several reasons. And number one, as I woke up this morning and saw on social media what many of you saw, the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump, and how that bullet that was aimed for the temple of his head just grazed past his ear, and all that was done was simply to bring a flesh wound. And the only explanation for this is it simply was not his time. That God has ordained the number of days and the number of months that he was to live, and that was not that day. The second reason that I'm drawn to these verses and others is the pastor of this church, John MacArthur, who is now 85 years old and will have a procedure this week. And we need to be reminded and comforted by the fact that his life is in the hands of a sovereign God, and that his days have been determined by God from before the foundation of the world, and God will preserve him and God will sustain him until that day comes. And this says something to each and every one of us here today, that God has appointed the number of days that you will have to live here upon this earth. That there's a reason why you're here. And He has foreordained your steps before you were born. And He has foreordained good works for you to perform. And He has given to you an allotted number of days. And you and I do not know what is that number of days, and we do not know when the end of our life will come, but God knows because God has foreordained it. And it would be good for us today to remember this fact, that God is sovereign over life and death. God is sovereign over time and eternity. God is sovereign over the affairs of our lives. And that we will not exceed the number of days that He has allotted to us.